Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Thought I'd throw up a quick video here. We've prepared a pair of handle scales. I'm going to build a cleaver here in a little bit. And it's going to have a fairly big handle on it. So these are a little larger than scales you would normally see for knife scales. It's going to be a pretty big handle on that cleaver. So I want to make sure I got plenty of wood here. So we're going to take these and we're going to burn them with the Lichtenberg burner, and then clean the char out of the burn scars, and we're going to I think we should we're going to stabilize them. We're going to stabilize them with some cactus juice in the vacuum chamber. And then we're going to take these where the, look at that grain. I don't know if you can really see it that well on camera, but those have some really nice grain in them. I'm really hoping that'll stand out well. But I think we'll stabilize them, not so much because it's soft wood. I think it's fairly good wood, but it's not really a hardwood because of the grain. I think, you know, the harder the wood, the smaller the grain, and this has got some pretty large grain in it. But mainly because it's cut kind of against the grain, so you don't have the strength this way that you should have. So we're going to burn them. We're going to clean out the char. We're going to throw them in the oven and dry them out for a little while. Then we're going to put them in the vacuum chamber and stabilize them with some cactus juice. And then we're going to fill in, and we're not just going to stabilize them. I believe I'm going to put some black dye in there with the cactus juice so that we can dye these black as we stabilize them. Now they won't come out completely black like a piece of ivory or something like that, black and white ivory and things like that. But it will make them pretty dark, I think. I don't know, it's kind of an experiment. But then with the darkened scales, we're going to fill in the fractal burns. Probably I'm thinking with some purple resin, and it's probably going to be purple pearl resin. So I'm thinking they're going to look pretty good. I hope they come out pretty well. Anyway, come on along on the experiment with me, and let's see how we can do these things. It'll be a first for me, and so maybe you've seen people do this before. I don't know, but we're going to give it a shot and see if we can't come up with some pretty cool looking handle scales to put on this cleaver. So thanks for being here and coming along on the ride, and let's go burn these scales. Alright, so we've got our handle scales here on the bench, and we've got a solution. All this is baking soda and water, but it helps the electricity travel through the wood. So we're just going to go ahead and wet these down here fairly well. Let them soak up a little bit of this baking soda solution here. And we'll give them a minute. We'll give them a minute just to allow that kind of soak into the wood. So that I want to try to get a pretty deep burn on these. Because we're going to do them like we did the stools. So I want to get a nice deep burn in there so that I've got room to put the resin in, you know. So we'll just kind of let these sit here for a minute and see what happens. Okay, so these have been sitting here for a while. We've been letting that water kind of soak in. Let's turn this Lichtenberg burner on and let's see what we get here. Okay, a little water on that, a little more baking soda water. A little more water. We'll get this thing to burn. We may have to let it soak a little bit longer. Seems to be just wanting to cook the water away from the electrode, because it probably hasn't soaked in there enough yet. Well, it's doing a pretty good job of cooking the top of my bench, where I got water on the bench, but it's not really fractal burning this piece of wood like I want it to. So we're going to wet these down even more and let them soak a while longer. This is some fairly dense wood apparently. The softer wood you use, the more readily it burns. You know, if you're using some soft pine or some Douglas fir or something like that, it'll fractal burn the tar out of it pretty fast, because it's a lot bigger grain, you know, so it'll allow the water to seep in faster. So this must be a fairly hard type of wood. I have no idea, to be honest with you, what type of wood this is. I wouldn't even venture a guess. It's some wood that was given to me by a friend, and I like the grain in it. It looks pretty nice. I think it'll make a nice set of scales, but like I say, I wouldn't even venture a guess as to what it is. So we're going to dry that, or let that soak in there some more. Well, alright guys, these have sat here for a while longer. I kind of dried our bench off because I don't want to burn it. I just want to burn the scales here. I'm not even sure this is going to work out, but I'd certainly like for it to. Let's give it another shot. Well, it's working now. We've got it wet enough. See, we're burning kind of an end grain here, so this is This is a new experiment for me. But I'd like to get some nice deep burns in there. And we're not getting them very deep. This may not work out too well. Yeah, that's not burning very deep at all. And it's burning through to the other side, which I really didn't want. And it's warping my wood. That's very strange, but yeah, it's warping the wood for whatever reason. Maybe we'll try it on this other side a little bit and see what happens here. Well, guys, we definitely got some deep burns in this stuff. I don't think you can see that very well. Let me move you over here. Or maybe we have a little better light here. As you can see, we got some pretty deep burns. It burned this edge real bad here. Problem is, where it's an end grain, it's burning completely through that wood to the other side, which is okay because I could epoxy that all back in and I could make it square again pretty much. The problem we have is this big curve we have in it here. That's not so good. But I'm thinking maybe I can take this. I've got a small shallow pan, one of those tin foil type pans up in the house in the knife room, and I'm thinking I could wet this wood, put water in the pan so that the wood is immersed in the water, and take one of my clamps and clamp this down on the bench so that it's flat and let it set overnight, and that'll probably straighten that back out. And then what I'll do is probably just put some tape around this so that we get a nice smooth, so it'll act kind of like a dam, and maybe put some resin in it after we stabilize it, and then that'll square everything up again. So these sides will still be here. They'll just be resin. I don't know. I don't know if that'll work or not, but I know burning this end grain, it's real deep right in here. It's real deep in here. This isn't too bad over here. This is really deep right in this area. And this little shot down here, this fractal here, is real deep. But it's just cooked this edge of this thing. Again, like I said, it's end grain, so I was kind of worried about that. I didn't know if that would really travel through that end grain like I thought it would. And apparently it didn't. See, this stuff is just crumbling off right here. Even after I brushed it in the water, it's still coming off. And you've really got to have something pretty substantial for your resin to stick to. See how that's just crumbling off in my fingers there? A lot of that is just completely charred. So I don't know that I'll waste my time trying to straighten that out and everything. I think we're probably just going to call it a bust on that. Like I said, I didn't know what would happen. I've burned long grain before, like these stools. When we did these stools here, you know, that was long grain. So it burned really nicely, and I was able to get a nice deep burn, and that's ash, which is another hardwood, but we were burning long grain. So I was able to get some nice deep burns on that, you know, without ruining the wood. But with this end grain, it just, and especially as thin as these are, it just wants to burn right through it. So so we may just have to call this one a bust. I don't know. I'll think about it a little bit, but I don't believe I'm going to try to save this. There's just too much char. I can't get it cleaned out of there. You try to clean the edge and it just falls off. And this is really weak because it's end grain, you know, so it would break really easily. So I'm thinking maybe back to the drawing board on this one. Now, we've still got this scale here, and I've still got more of this wood. So I can cut and match another scale to this as closely as possible. Well, the problem was these two pieces of wood were like this, and I ripped it down the center and then cut it off the end of the board to make two scales, so we had matching bookend grain. So what I'll probably end up doing is I'll have to make two more full scales, so that because I want that matching grain on that book, you know, grain on both sides. So I want it to match up. I want it to look right. So I think what I'll do is I'll make another set of scales, and this time we won't try to burn them. Like I say, never tried to burn end grain before. It didn't work out like I wanted it to. I would really like to have that fractal burn look. Maybe I'll make my scales out of some other type of wood where I can burn it long grain. So anyway, experiment. It failed, and you were here to see it. So thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button, please. I'm up to 105 subscribers, so that's pretty cool. So we're going to make a different set of scales for that cleaver, upcoming cleaver I mentioned in my previous video. I'm going to make a big old nasty cleaver, so, but I want the handle scales to be special. I want them to look really good, so I'll make another set of scales and maybe make them out of some long grain wood, because with that vacuum chamber up there and that cactus juice, I can stabilize any wood I want and make it like a hardwood. So I've got some cedar and stuff that I can do with long grain. Maybe we'll give that a shot, and we'll do that on another video. So thanks for watching. Appreciate y'all being here. Get out to your shop, do something, tear something up, fix something, whatever it is you like to do. Always be safe when you're working in your shop. We'll see you on the next one.